Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. Um, I hope everybody's having a good day so far, no matter where they are. Um, so yeah, uh, got a lot to get to, a lot to get to. So we've got everything on the docket today. We've got streaming, we've got feature films, we've got everything you can want. We have trailers. So one came out today, one came out yesterday. We're going to talk about everything and get your thoughts on all this stuff. So let's just dive right in. Okay. Couple of things. So, number one, we just had a trailer yesterday. I want to talk about the first one that came out yesterday. Um, so, the trailer came out yesterday. It had been almost a year, a little after a year actually, that the first trailer came out, and we had seen very little press about it. And it finally dropped yesterday, as I said, and that is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We finally got this trailer that everybody had been looking forward to, including myself. Um, I think I've always said I thought this was going to be the number one movie this summer, um, just for a number of reasons. I mean, Tom Cruise's goodwill with Top Gun Maverick. It is part one of the last film. Ton of stuff. Um, and the trailer didn't disappoint at all. And so we got a couple of sequences in the trailer that we had seen before. Couple of signature shots, like Tom Cruise, Ethan running, down a long hallway corridor type of thing. We got another couple of good shots of the antagonists and a couple proxies. Um, it just looks fun. It just looks fun, action packed, and I can't wait for this. And it's one of those things where, and I've said this before about Tom Cruise, he realized what he had with Top Gun Maverick, and obviously that was during the pandemic and everything else. But I think the big thing is that when you have a movie like that, and Cruise loves to do everything practically, we all know that. And that's why it was such a success. And I think that this is going to be huge. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. And so I really believe that um, I really believe it's going to be the number one movie this summer. I'm just fixated on this. I am doing a Mission Impossible rewatch series. Okay, I have gotten through the first two. I will be watching the third one, in the next couple of days, and I will be putting that up for you guys. The goal, what is going to happen is by the time July 14th comes out, but by the time it rolls around, you guys will be up to date. Will have watched, and you guys will hopefully have watched with me, my reaction videos and whatnot, rewatch videos, every single Mission Impossible film and how it's evolved and the different directors and the different secretaries and everything else. And so, yeah, this just looks stunning. So we're going to get to a movie in a couple minutes that's coming out this weekend, of course. And so, this is another big budget movie, right? But there's a difference between this kind of budget and what, you know, that movie is. And this is going to make its money back. I really believe. So it's interesting. Not one Mission Impossible film has ever hit $1 billion. Now, you've had a couple of the Fast and Furious movies hit $1 billion. Overseas, actually. Not even here in the States. I really believe that this has the potential. I'm not saying it's going to be, do it right off the bat. But I think it has the potential to hit $1 billion. I really do. And even if it doesn't hit $1 billion, it could come close. By the time next, 2024 is done and we're done with these movies, Dead Reckoning, I think, is going to be one of the top two or three movies, of course, adjusted for inflation and everything else. One of the top two or three movies we're talking about worldwide net gross. I really, truly believe that. And so I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this movie. And if we don't get any other news between now and July 14th, I'm happy. I really am. Now, it's one of those things where you wait so long, they only give you a little bit. Well, that's the point. They're all breadcrumbs. That this new trailer, with a lot of visually, I got to say something else. Visually, it looks stunning. It looked absolutely stunning. A couple of the shots were just magnificent. Yeah, there's nothing much else to say about this. So I can't wait for this movie, and I'm sure there are millions of other people out there that are on the same boat with me. Okay, so we go from that trailer to a trailer that just dropped today, and this is a movie that everybody was looking forward to. And it's not coming out this summer, but it's coming out this fall. And I found the book, and I'm talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. So we got our very first trailer for Killers of the Flower Moon today. And wow, does it look good. There's no, I mean, and obviously, something to be said is too that I think that trailers can be very deceptive, right? Deceptive in the fact of not what's on the screen, but we have always seen movies, okay? Every single person has seen a movie that they say, oh, the trailer looks really good. And subsequently, they go and they see the movie and they go, ugh, what was that? And so Scorsese is an absolute genius when it comes to not only putting together trailers, but putting together films. Now, this is based off of a book, okay, as I just, was showing, okay? So it is an adapted story. And I think that when you have the star power, okay, and we saw some of the star power in there, right? This is we have Robert De Niro, we have Jesse Plemons, we have Lily Gladstone, we have Brendan Fraser, we have, of course, our lead is Leonardo DiCaprio, that's worked with Scorsese on films such as Shutter Island, Wolf of Wall Street, things like that. It's an amazing. It just looks outstanding. And then you put two generations together, the younger man, the younger actor in DiCaprio, and the older generation in De Niro, and it just looks out of sight. Out of sight, out of sight, out of sight. Good. And the other thing I think that, the one thing that I really liked about this trailer is that it didn't tell you too much, right? I mean, granted, this was a very first trailer. This was a very first trailer that just got you interested, okay? But I think the thing is, when you have a name like directed by Martin Scorsese, Casino, Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, you don't need to, it's going to be. Have there been movies that have not hit home, so to speak? Yeah, sure. Every director has a bad day at the office, but he doesn't care about reception. He cares about making the very best film he can. Okay? Hell, he's even worked with Tom Cruise on, The Color of Money. One of the most underrated films in Cruise's career and Scorsese's career. Anyways, that being said, um, yeah, this looks real, and it's a murder mystery. It's a who done it. And the thing that you really, I mean, not a big proponent of them. I like them, okay, but even the voiceovers, right? It's one of those things where the voiceover has a lot to do with the actual film. The less it is said, the more. And I think that that's important because when you get to a point where you have dialogue and you're talking about all this stuff and everything else, it's just I um I don't like that. And I think that um I'm really, this is absolutely for award season. Don't kid yourself. The Scorsese is looking to clean up with some Oscars. Okay, and that's a fact. That's an absolute fact. And I think that when you see um, that, and I mean, don't forget he was Irishman garnered over 10 Academy Award nominations this a couple years ago. So I mean, of course, that was Al Pacino. I mean, De Niro was in that. Joe Pesci. I mean, the man. I put Martin Scorsese on Mount Everest, Mount Rushmore, the Mount Rushmore of directors. Okay, I mean, you have Spielberg, you've got Scorsese, you've got, you know, I even put Cam in there just because of what he's done technologically, and somebody like Coppola, because Coppola, you know, um, it was. I mean, everybody knows him from The Godfather and The Godfather Part Two, and The Godfather trilogy, and that's understandable. But look at a movie like Dracula. It's completely off the different for him, but it was done so well. But getting back to Scorsese, he doesn't, I mean, he has literally changed cinema with the number of films. I mean, Spielberg and Scorsese, those two individuals, we need to appreciate their work now because 5, 10 years from now, they're not going to be here, right? And we always look at the library of their work and go, it's so hard to pick a top 7 or a top 5, you know. Um, so it's one of those things where, you know, like The Wolf of Wall Street, for example, going back to that real quick, that's probably his 6th or 7th best film. It is, you look at Spielberg. Schindler's List is probably, in my eyes, it's his master class. But something like an E.T., that's top 5, but that's an amazing movie, you know. So we really have to cherish the um, the work that these guys do because they're not going to be around forever. Anyways, guys, what do you think about these 2 trailers? And by the way, I will attach the links down in the description box for you guys to watch them if you haven't or if you want to watch them again. Um, what do you think of these trailers? Which one of these 2 trailers are you looking forward to the most? Um, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go from movie trailers to big budget films, and so big, films have just grown as far as the budgets astronomically. And so there's a couple of different stories. So the one I'm talking about is the one I'm really talking about is Fast X. Okay, now Fast X, this is a picture of Jason Momoa, speeding on the bike. One of the shots you've seen in the many trailers. Okay. Um, and that being said, so there have been reviews for this, and I'm actually going to go see it today. So stay tuned for Saturday, guys. I will be doing a spoiler cast on Fast X and telling you guys exactly my thoughts about it and what my thoughts and my opinions about it. So I'm going to start with the box office projections, and then I'm going to get into another piece because I think it's fascinating. So this comes to us from Variety, and so they're talking about it eyeing a $60 million opening. Fast 10, the 10th installment in Universal's high-octane franchise, is revving up to lead global box office charts. The movie is projected to open between 60 or more million dollars in North America and at least 220 million at the international box office. Based on those estimates, Fast 10 is looking to capture $280 million worldwide in its first weekend of release. In terms of domestic number box office projections, a soft start around 60 million is below the latest entry, last year's Fast 9, The Fast Saga, which kicked off to $70 million and ended its theatrical run at 173 million for North America. And that was a time when COVID-era restrictions meant only 80% of the theaters were open, and attendance hadn't yet rebounded. It also lags behind pre-pandemic Fast installments, the 2017's The Fate and the Furious, which opened at 98 million, 2015's Furious 7 at series high 148 million, and the 2013's Fast and Furious 6 at $97 million for a debut. Though the Fast saga has experienced diminishing returns in the United States and Canada, the big screen homage, its hulking men and speeding cars, has remained hugely popular at the box office. With each installment, overseas ticket sales have accounted for a bigger piece of the pie, as Fast 9 and 2019 spin-off Hobbs and Shaw hit 550 million overseas. In 2017's Fate of the Furious cleared the coveted $1 billion mark from foreign territories alone. Fast 10 needs to continue that trend because the film is the most expensive installment so far, costing a gargantuan $340 million to produce and another $100 million to promote globally. And I'm going to get to that in a couple minutes. Directed by Louis Loretto, Fast 10 follows Vin Diesel's street racing Dom Toretto and crew as they confront the most lethal opponent they've ever faced. Jason Momoa plays the film antagonist Dante Reyes, the son of a drug lord who is seeking revenge for the loss of his family's fortune for a prior heist in Rio de Janeiro. The ensemble cast includes a mixture of familiar faces and newcomers to the family, including Michelle Rodriguez, Jason Momoa, Jason Statham, John Cena, Helen Mirren, Charlize Theron, and Rita Moreno. Already, another sequel has been slated for release in 2025. Variety's Peter DeBerg called the movie, quote, predictably ridiculous, end quote. Not that audiences are watching these movies for the plot. Especially for the recent chapters, the Fast franchise has been less reliant on narrative cohesion and more dependent on the zany, gravity-defying stunts and homages to sell tickets. Okay, let me talk about it, and then I want to go to the other piece because I think that's important too. So, a couple of things. Number one, this is when we talk about movies, I like to just turn my brain off every now and then. Okay, I do, and this is one of those movies. I think that when you have a movie like this, it's gotten so out of control that we go, how much are they going to do, right? And I think that it's one of those things where um, when you spend this much money too, it's crazy. So as seen there in the picture, okay, you have Vin Diesel, who I'm sure number one is a producer on the film, but number two is making a whole lot of money. Okay. Um, you have Momoa, Charlize Theron, Statham, okay, Jordana Brewster, who's been a staple from the whole franchise beginning, John Cena, okay, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, okay, you've got Michelle Rodriguez, Brie Larson is in this, okay. Here's the thing, okay, with this film, it has become so crowded that it's very difficult to get any cohesion. And I guess they're bringing back Han, from what I understand. Justice for Han was. I remember that hashtag. Okay. Um, the other thing, the main reason why I don't like this franchise is this: it is a cut, copy, and paste franchise. Meaning this: you take, you have the crew, okay? You have villain A. Villain A then joins the crew. So we cut them and we copy them and we put them in the crew. Okay. And then we get another villain. And that particular person now becomes good and they go and fight the new villain. And then it's repeat. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't, there has to be some story. Okay. Because look, I like watching fast cars too. Okay. But, you know, how much is it? At what point do you suspend disbelief and say, okay, it's gotten so out there. At least Mission Impossible, I'll say one thing. Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, at least what he has done, he does as much practical as he can. Okay? I mean, I talk about it all the time and I rave about it all the time. Go check out, that stunt. Okay? It's a 9-minute video on YouTube from Paramount Pictures. It shows you how they constructed that stunt for the cliff jump. But they did as much as they could, and it looks amazing. This is just, but there's story behind that. This is so outrageous that, and when you have a $340 million budget, at what point does a studio say, okay, we got to cut down the budget so we can break even. We can break even, not just make a profit, but break even. And I think that's the thing about this is if it's only going to make $60 million, only, let's say it tops out at $70 million. How much do you think it's going to make domestically? Really, honestly and truly, how much do you think it's going to make domestically? $200 million? So you're telling me that this movie is going to make, so the way it works is this: a production budget, okay, you have to make at least 2 to 3 times your production budget just to break even. Okay, so for example, this is 340 million, I believe it said, $340 million. Okay, excuse me. So, bear with me. Let me just find the number here. Excuse me. 200. Okay. $340 million. Okay. So that means in order for this film to break even, it has to make $1 billion. It has to make $1 billion. or loses money. And really, it was $440 million because of the market. So this thing has to make $1.2 billion just to break even. I'm kind of estimating, but $1.2 billion just to break even. Now, I don't see this making $1.2 billion. I just don't. I can't. Okay. We're going to be talking about another movie here in a couple minutes. And I checked out of that one, but it was at least, there's other elements to it. I just don't see this making that. So we're going to stay on the thing of Fast 10 again. So this comes from Jeremy Fauser. And I am going to try and get him on the show. So, whether it's this summer or after the summer, we can talk to him about the box office. But he is a box office guru, okay? And he, and this is peaceful to, show that. So, mind you, this is going to repeat some of the same information you just had, but he's going to give a different take on it. So it says Dominic Toretto and the family are back for a 10th lap this weekend with Universal's Fast 10, the latest installment in a Fast and Furious series that over the past 2 decades has become one of Universal's biggest box office titans. But Fast 10 will test how much interest moviegoers worldwide still have for the global moneymaker as it heads into theaters in the biggest budget of any film in the series. Currently, box office projections have it opening at around 65 to 73 million in North America and 280 to 305 worldwide. Okay, so let me stop it right there. Let's say it tops out at $73 million, and let's say it tops out at 305. So it's going to make anywhere between 285, okay, to 382. Okay, it's going to make the whole budget back in 1 week. Okay. That's great, but you want to start trying to turn a profit. As the Wrap reported late last year, the production budget for the Fast 10 film ballooned to $340 million, well above the $200 to $225 million budget it spent for the predecessor F9. Some of the reasons for the overrun budget were outside of Universal's control, such as supply demand and inflation costs that made shooting in locations like Rome and Lisbon very expensive, as well as COVID-19 safety costs. But the other factor in the franchise's rising budget can be seen in the poster, showcasing the series' ever-growing cast. And I was just talking about that. Along with longtime regulars Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, and Tyrese Gibson, actors who have played villains in the past have come back, like a Jason Statham, Charlize Theron, and John Cena have become full-time members. On top of this, more A-list actors like Jason Momoa and Brie Larson are joining this time around, inflating the cast payroll. If Fast 10 was expected to easily clear $1 billion at the global box office like predecessors, Fast 7 and The Fate and the Furious did in 2015 and 2017, respectively, this wouldn't be a problem. But domestic tracking has this film at roughly $70 million that F9 got in May 2021, when the box office was just beginning its pandemic recovery and moviegoers were slowly returning to the theaters. F9 ended up grossing $173 million domestically and $726 worldwide. In order to turn a profit from theatrical alone, Fast 10 is going to have to at least reach $800 to $850 million for success. So think about that for a minute, okay? Think about that, okay? $800 to $850 million just to turn a profit, okay? I said it was around 2.5 times. There is no way that this is going to make $800 to $850 million. Now, look, I could eat my words. I'll be the first one to say, I don't know. Okay. But if it's only opening at $60 million or $70 million, what do you think is going to happen? Okay. I mean, I've got a very, very big problem with, you know, eh, look, and I've always said they're making films for overseas. They're not making them for here. Okay. We love our celebrities and our stars. Okay. Like a Brie Larson, like The Rock, like whoever you want to name. Okay. But this is for, they don't care. They love people. They love these movie stars overseas because they're not critiquing. Okay. Um, I would be shocked in a month's time, especially, okay. Now you do have Memorial Day coming up. Okay. That's understandable. I would be shocked because once June hits, forget about it. Forget about it. June is packed. And I've discussed it several times here on the show. Okay. Across the Spider Verse. Okay. You've got Transformers, Rise of the Beast. You've got The Flash. You've got Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Okay. There is no way this is turning a profit. There is no way. Which leads me to the question, what are they going to do for the next one? Because this is supposed to be at least 2 to 3 movies. That would be fascinating. Okay. Back to the piece real quick. At this point, it's difficult to say whether the Fast and Furious has had enough global interest to hit that mark. The franchise still has a dependable fan base and a solid reputation of over-the-top, ludicrous, see what he said? Ludicrous, action escapism that should allow it to do well through the Memorial Day weekend. But sustaining buzz against June titles, and I was just referring to this, you have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Transformers Rise of the Beast, and The Flash, not to mention Indiana Jones at the end of the month. So it may come down to the film's overseas performance. International ticket sales may well determine whether Fast 10 turns a theatrical profit or has to resort to a post-theatrical revenue stream to get out of the red. Even at the height of its popularity, Fast and Furious has been one of the franchises that's been more than an international moneymaker, as both Fast 7 and Fate grossed over $1 billion without North America factoring in. Now, with one of those movies, and I believe it was Fate of the Furious, Paul Walker had just passed away. Now, I'm not saying that had anything to do with it, but it definitely had a tiny bit to do with it. It wasn't the whole reason because the tribute was amazing and everybody wanted to see the tribute. But there was a little tiny bit of that there. With Chinese moviegoers no longer interested in most Hollywood offerings, those overseas grosses may be diminished. Insiders at Universal says the studio is expecting Fast X to gross less than the 216 million that Fast 9 got. Though there's still hope that the drop will not be as steep as the Fast and Furious, still one of the most popular Hollywood titles in China. That will mean the rest of the international theatrical market, which has recovered greatly since the release of Fast 9, may have to pick up the slack. While Fast 9 got a month-long release rollout worldwide, Fast 10 will be released in 81 markets worldwide this weekend, starting today, really, here in the States. That means we will know right away how the film is performing compared to the past Fast and Furious films, and whether this franchise has the ability to be a hit no matter what the budget. Okay, so let's talk about this because it's so important to understand this. And this is why I talk about the business, guys, because look, it's always great to go see these movies, but it's another thing to actually understand the business because the business is half the battle. Okay. When you are making a movie, okay, that is $340 million. Now think about this. I want you guys to think about something real quick. Okay. Endgame and Infinity War, okay, both cost $250 million each. They cost $250 million each. Okay. That being said, Endgame made over $2 billion. Okay. Um, and Infinity War made over $1 billion. But those had stories. You were invested in those characters. There's no investment here. There's zero story here. The fact that you're bringing back a character that was, from 4 or 5 films and he died. Okay. Oh, I just, decided I wanted to retire for 4 or 5 films and you know, um, and that's why I said, number one, you have all of these stars. Okay, take a look at this picture. You have 7 or 8 people. I'm not talking, okay, so you've got Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Ludacris, okay? They are all, and Jordana Brewster. Those are your 4, Tyrese Gibson. Those are your 5 staples. They have been in every single movie. Okay? Every single one. Now, over the course of the last 5 movies, okay, you have brought in Charlize Theron, you've brought in Jason Statham, you've brought in John Cena, you've brought in Charlize Theron, and you brought in Brie Larson. If you take those 5 budgets, okay, compared to the other 5 budgets, I'd be curious to see what they are. That being said, that's your problem. It's way over inflated, okay? And eventually the bubble is going to pop, okay? I don't see how this A turns a profit and B, why you need all of these people in there, okay? You look at something like Civil War, okay? Civil War was a film where, and we had lead up to it, okay? And there is precedent for this, okay, to have all these characters in there. But if you look at Civil War, not only was that a team movie, okay, Team Cap against Team Iron Man, okay, that you had individual stories. Every single person had their own individual story. Every single one of them. Whether it was Bucky, whether it was Tony, whether it was, Natasha, whether it was, whoever it was, okay, they had their own story. Half of these characters, okay, half of them have come in the last 5 or 6 years or the last 5 movies. You don't need that, okay? It is way overinflated, okay? And that's a good reason why. So you're spending $340 million, okay? That's it. And I just, I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked and floored if this movie turned a profit. I would. And if you think, bringing back other stars is going to do it, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Okay? Because this is so. Look, I'm willing to suspend disbelief, but there's a difference between suspending disbelief and just shaking your head, go, oh, God, now what? At least with, and I compared it to Mission Impossible earlier. Tom Cruise does everything practical as much as he can. As much as everything practical. Everything. Whether it's, hanging off this, does he have harnesses and everything else? Yeah, okay. He hangs off the side of a plane. He climbs the largest building in the world. Okay? It takes a year for him to get the air capacity to actually, and they can only do one shot a day for a halo jump. He learns in 3 or 4 months how to fly a helicopter. Okay? And he did it all. And that's why a movie like Fallout is so good. It's so good. Okay? And then you bring in the star power, like an Angela Bassett, like a Henry Cavill. Okay? But it's so good. And you can bring back recurring people like Michelle Monaghan. Okay? For a small part. Anyways, I don't see this turning a profit, and B, I'm just gonna go and have a good time. Anyways, guys, what do you guys think about the Fast X? What do you think about the opening numbers for Fast X? How much do you think it's gonna make here domestically? How much do you think it's gonna make overseas? How much do you think it's gonna make total? And if it takes 800 or 900 million to turn a profit, do you think it could turn a profit? Anyways, leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I will get back to everybody. Okay, so we move from one blockbuster to the other. And this is the other movie I was just referencing a couple minutes ago. Okay. And once again, a big, big, big movie. And I'm talking about Transformer Rise of the Beast. Now, it's fascinating because Transformers was an absolute fantastic film because it was the first of its kind. And then slowly but surely, the franchise started to go downhill. And it just became about explosions and, who's going to do what. And the story was really lackluster. And I checked out. I think the last one I saw was Dark Side of the Moon. And I checked out. I think I may have seen some of Age of Extinction too, but I never saw the last night. And there was so much going on with this that they said, okay, we need to reinvent ourselves. And Rise of the Beast, and anybody who's not familiar with it, you have what's known as the Maximals. It's just, it looks interesting. Okay, it looks cool. Michael Bay is not directing, so that's going to be fascinating. Okay, we have another director coming in, and here's the piece from the Hollywood Reporter and what it's tracking for. So it says Transformers: Rise of the Beast tracking for $68 million opening weekend. Transformers: Rise of the Beast is tracking for a solid domestic debut in the $68 million range, according to early data. Paramount Pictures, Skydance, and Hasbro are looking to the movie to win over the summer audiences and re-energize the marquee movie franchise. Last month, director Stephen Cabell Jr. and stars Anthony Ramos and Dominique Fishback presented the trailer for the movie when taking the stage at CinemaCon. Rise of the Beast opens in the United States on June 9th. Time for a global rollout. The new film takes audiences on a 90s globetrotting adventure with the Autobots, where they're introduced to a whole new faction of Transformers, the Maximals, who will join the Autobots to fight to save Earth. Ramos Fishback star alongside Luna Laura Valdez, Dean Scott Vasquez, Peter Cullen, Pete Davidson, Ron Perlman, Peter Dinklage, and Michelle Yeoh. Joby Harold, Josh Peters, and Eric and John Holber wrote the script based on the story for Harold. And then you have Don Murphy, Michael Bay, and Doug Henderson producing. And EPs in the film, of course, is Steven Spielberg, Brian Goldner, David Elzer, Dana Gerber, John Gruber, and others. Okay, let's talk about this real quick because this is interesting. And it's interesting because you have a movie, okay, and Fast 10 that's coming out this weekend. And it is actually not going to make as much. Early estimations are Transformers is going to make more than the Fast and Furious movie. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And what does that say, too? It says a couple of things to me. Number one, people are done with the Fast and Furious. They're just done. Okay? They are completely done. Number two, it says that not only are they done, but they don't want any more. And number three, you have a film coming in the beginning of right around the second week of June, and that's going to make more money. I think that says a lot. Once again, I don't think the Fast and Furious movie is going to, you know, even if it makes $60 million, this will be lucky to, and I say lucky to break $150 million domestically. Lucky, because it's so crowded. This is going to be the first time you can go to your local Cinemaplex, okay, and you're going to have 7 or 8 movies there for you to watch. Right now, you have Guardians, okay. You've got Fast 10, which is coming out this weekend, okay. Then you've got Transformers at the 9th, Across the Spider-Verse, The Flash, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, and Oppenheimer. Now, I'm not including Barbie and Little Mermaid because those are. It's not because they're skewed toward the female demographic. It's not that at all. It's that it's one of those things where it's going to have. I mean, even Little Mermaid. Okay, that's going to have a hard time making money. I mean, all of the indications, all of the reviews saying it's positive, but still. So to have this make nearly $70 million is very good. And, you're going to see a lot of movies, especially opening weekend, not make as much money as they can. So, I mean, I've said it before. There are only 3 movies that are going to win 2 weeks. We've had Guardians of the Galaxy win the 5th and the 12th. Okay? This is going to win. When I say this, I mean Fast 10. This is going to win this weekend and next weekend. Okay? And then all the way in July, you're going to have Mission Impossible. That is going to win that weekend and is going to win the weekend after that. Because there's no way Oppenheimer and Barbie are going to be able to sustain. Not only are they going to be fighting against each other, okay, but they're going to try and have to sustain the second week for Mission Impossible. Because I've always said it, guys. It's not about the opening week. It's about the second week. Because if you open big, okay, it usually falls off a lot. In a grand scheme of things, you want between 40 to 50%. 50 to 60% is average. You do any more than 60%, and it falls off a cliff. And all you got to do is take a look at Ant-Man. It dropped off 70%. Now, on the flip side of the coin, the fact that Guardians was able to only drop off 50% is huge. It's huge. So, yeah, I think this is it's big stuff, and I think that once again, this is going to be another movie that I'm going to be doing a spoiler cast for. I'm going to be doing spoiler cast for all these movies, and yeah, so June's going to be packed. June is going to be packed. So, what do you think, guys? Do you think that $68 million is right around par for Transformers? Do you think he'll make more than $68 million? Are you looking forward to the new Transformers movie? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we go from feature film, okay, and now we're going to talk about Disney. And Disney is, while they are, they've had a very interesting year to say the least. Okay, um, and it's one of those things where I think that a lot of people would be. I mean, so a couple of things. Number one, they've had a very interesting year so far. Okay, because I mean, you have had everything from Victoria Alonso, um, the Victoria Alonso lawsuit, to the Bob Chapin lawsuit, to his dismissal, to you know, um, to actually bear with me, guys. Just finding this other photo for you. Um, so yeah, they've just had a very interesting year. Anyways, the CFO, okay, had Christy McCarthy basically said on about Bob Iger's return, streaming and the theme parks, we're winners and we're gonna win. Walt Disney CFO Christy McCarthy nudged investors uh, to discard a couple narratives uh, that has emerged from the latest earnings that Disney Parks growth may be unsustainable and the company is shedding subscribers and slashing streaming content. We like to think of ourselves as a company of winners. We know that there are challenges in this industry, but we look at the hand we have to play and we think we have got a great hand. We are winners and we're going to win, she said at a media conference in New York City, where the company just held its annual upfront presentation to advertisers. Attendees at this and others meet during the week to head to skirt the picket lines for the WGA. Disney ended its fiscal second quarter with 157.8 million global subscribers, down 4 million from the prior quarter, but the drag was from Disney Plus, Hotstar. When we broke it down, we saw a decline of 4.6 million in India and lost 4 million globally, which meant that Disney Plus core subscribers were actually up by less than a million. We would like to have more, but that's partially due to the price increase for the service, McCarthy told the Moffat uh, event. She's confident original television and films set to hit streaming in the second half of the year will attract signups and reduce churn. Disney also will introduce a new app that will merge Disney Plus into Hulu. So that's something else that I'll talk about in a couple minutes too. It seems that an ad-supported streaming tier in September, it launched an ad-supported streaming tier in September and said the reception from the ad community at the end of the company's upfront presentation was very positive. Advertising is slow for Disney and others, but it's cynical. Uh, okay, for others, and will rebound as it always has. Ad sales chief Rita Ferrer, also with the press conference, had said refinements in Disney and Disney's data technology has it well positioned when the ad market does come back. As what changed in how the streaming business is being run since Bob Iger returned as CEO in November, she said, well, Bob is back, and that's great news. She had to step back a bit, describing division from parks to ESPN, now managed more streamlined, global, with more accountability at the top. As well as entertainment co-heads Dana Wally and Alan Bergman. The latter are are spending inside not only their linear but film businesses, but also DTC, just direct to consumer. Where is the marginal dollar of content investment being spent? McCarthy noted some concern from the earnings call about pulling off streaming that could make it harder to attract or retain subs. That's not really the case. It is really spending our dollars to the highest and best use, where they will attract and retain subs. And again, about accountability. There's a lot going on when you release earnings. There's a lot of information that goes in the market at once. This is like a big puzzle. This isn't a 300-piece puzzle. This is a 2,500-piece puzzle, she said. The first place savings, which Disney is addressing, laying off 7,000 employees. At booming theme parks, there's a perception on Wall Street that may be flush in a large part of higher admission costs, which is unsustainable. We are in inflation environment. We are in an environment that it has to deal with inflation. We are very aware of that, as inflation impacts everyone's life. McCarthy insisting that the ticket prices are tracking inflation no more. Park sales and profits are coming from a mixture of experimental food and beverage offerings related to specific properties like Star Wars. Things people want to Instagram and post and merchandise. It's t-shirts, it's hat, and it's also building your own lightsaber. Not cheap, but people tend to spend the money. That is consumer choice. Genie Plus, which gives access to attractions for a fee, is boosting sales. Yes, you pay for it, but for some people, it's for a limited amount of time. Since COVID, the theme parks have developed a much more sophisticated reservation system to maximize attendance and revenue. For the first quarter since COVID, attendance popped in international locations. Okay, let me talk about this because it's necessary. Because a couple of things. Now, I think theme parks personally are way overpriced. Okay, and I understand their businesses, multi-billion-dollar businesses, in fact, and they have to try to make money. That being said, I think that when you have a business and you are trying to go, I live right down the street from the Six Flags. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I live right down the street from the Six Flags, and I won't go there. Why? Because it's too damn expensive. I can walk there. I literally can walk. It's a 10-minute walk. But I will not go there because it's way, way too high priced. It's way too high priced. And I'm not talking about having to deal with parking. I'm talking about everything. Go in there and it's $15 for a cheeseburger. And, they search you when you go into the parks to make sure you're not bringing any food or anything or water, because the water is $6. That being said, I think that when you have to deal with inflation, and by the way, inflation hits everybody, okay? Inflation just dropped 0.1%, okay? But still. And they are going to be making so much money. They make so much money as it is. And Bob Iger is doing the right thing, okay? And I guarantee you right now, they won't say it, but I guarantee you right now, they are doing some sort of short list of people that basically they because he no longer wants to be there, and he's only there for a temporary amount of time. My guess is probably end of 2024 if he's lucky, but hopefully it's a better CEO than Bob Chapek was. And that's the thing. He has to undo all of this bullshit. Okay? I think that being said, okay, I think that Disney's going to be fine. We're always going to go back to Disney in some capacity. And as far as merchandising is concerned, of course, that's a big thing. Of course, it's a big thing. T-shirts and hats and keychains and knickknacks and everything else. You know. Um, so, anyways, what do you think? First of all, what do you think about Disney? Do you like Disney? Do you go to Disneyland or Disney World every year, or if you have a seasonal pass? How often do you go? What's the best part of it to you? What parts don't you like? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments. Okay, so we go from one streamer to another. So Netflix is, I would want to say, maybe the Godfather of streaming. Maybe they've been around for, believe it or not, right around 25 years. I know that's crazy to think about, but that is true. So, that being said, bear with me real quick, guys. Okay, so that being said, okay, so Netflix has been around for about 25 years. Okay, they are the godfather of streaming. And that being said, they've had a lot of problems over the past 12 months. Okay. And so they actually have had to try and get more revenue. Okay. And in that revenue, they have done a lot. Okay. And one of the things that they just did was they got an ad tier. Okay. Now, look, when you spend X amount of money on a streaming service, you usually don't want to have to pay for ads. I mean that you will, the average consumer, okay, will pay a little more so they don't have to deal with ads. Okay. And so that being said, Netflix just came out the other day and said they have nearly, quote, 5 million monthly active users on their ad tier. So this comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Netflix knows it is in the early innings of a streaming advertising game, but it wants the ad world to know it isn't a niche player. During its virtual upfront presentation Wednesday afternoon, Netflix president of worldwide advertising Jeremy Gordon said that the Nasat advertising tier of the service has nearly 5 million global monthly active users, with a median of age 34, 6 months after launch. The company overall says the ad member base has, quote, more than doubled, end quote, since early this year. Overall, Netflix global subscribers is at 232.5 million. Netflix has been mum on how many subscribers have the ad tier. As previous reports, it's been pegged at around 1 million. But the active monthly metric is a step in that direction. And co-CEO Greg Peters noted that more than 1/4 of the signups in countries where the ad plan is available, people choose it, with levels of engagement similar to those of the ad-free tier. The signals are promising engagement on our ads plans, which is comparable to our non-ad plans, Peters said. That's critical because it all starts and ends with consumers. Instead, Netflix dominates most streaming rating charts, and the company says that its users watch for more than their competitors. It's why, despite all the competition out there, Netflix is the most popular streaming service today. To be the one to watch, you need everyone watching, and that's what sets Netflix apart. Peter said, what sounds like taking a little dig at the upcoming Mac service using the tag "The One to Watch." Peter cited, quote, the Netflix effect, end quote, in helping push older songs at the top of the charts after they appear in Netflix shows. And in helping it, niche sports have become mainstream, as footage from the Formula One docuseries Drive to Survive played. And Netflix control content chief said that the popularity of the service is because they are, quote, super serving our audience, giving you something that they will really love, that will really satisfy you, end quote. To super serve our members, we have to focus on quality, with the understanding that quality, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. On the product side, VP of Global Ads, Peter Nair, unveiled the new sponsorship opportunities, including the ability to sponsor the presentation of a series at launch and aligning sponsorships with holidays and brand moments. The company cited a collection of sustainable stories for advertisers looking to boost their own eco option will give advertisers guaranteed placement within the titles in the Netflix top 10 country by country. Nair also announced that at the beginning of Q4, clients will be able to use the Nelson Digital ad board to measure the reach of the campaign. The company also announced a deal with the firm EDO to measure engagement. And executives promised further evolution on the ad front, with Gorman telling the audience that they plan on, quote, innovating. We treat our ads with the same care we treat our incredible content, serving them locally, seamlessly transitioning between shows and ads with no elasticity, and implementing industry-leading frequency caps with an ad load of 4 to 5 minutes per hour, she said. It was a comment echoed by co-CEO Ted Sarandos later on, noting that the company revolutionized streaming when it introduced House of Cards a decade ago, and that it was working on, quote, similar breakthroughs in advertising that, quote, can be just as impactful. You've heard a lot from us today, and I think it boils down to one thing. Netflix needs to be a little different, Sarandos concluded his comments. In the past, when consumers have very little choice of where to watch, it didn't matter so much which a network or a show or a film landed on. They were all very similar today. Today, we believe we have a title on Netflix that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, let's talk about this. Because here's the thing. Netflix is he's right about a couple of things. Okay. Number one, you have retention, right? I'm going to compare it to this. Comparing it to like the show. Okay. When I have people come in here, and my goal, okay, is that I can deliver to you guys, the fans, the viewers, the absolute best content I can. So that way, you will come back. You will come back and you'll hit that notification button, you'll hit that like and subscribe button, and you will come back because you like the content. Okay. Now, that being said, he's right about that. As far as other platforms are concerned, here's the thing. I understand. Let's go back to a couple things they said here. As far as the Netflix in helping pushing older songs, look, the thing is, everybody loves nostalgia in some capacity. Okay. Going back to this here. So the top 10 will give the advertisers, well, you're going to have to pay more. Okay. And if you're already paying a certain amount of money, you're going to pay a little bit more. Because you want your thing just like anything else. I would want my thing at the top because that's where you look. Okay. That's where your eyes go first. Okay. They'll be fine. Okay. And, it's one of those things where I think that they have so much else to deal with. Okay. They have so much else to deal with because the thing is, they're not the only game in town anymore. Okay, they will be fine, but they are not the only game in town. Okay, because they have Apple, they have Amazon, they have Hulu, they have all these other streaming services. Okay, that they have to contend with, and you know that's why I call them the Godfather of streaming, because they're the ones that started it, the whole thing. So, and look, at the end of the day, too, this is just a big thing for an earnings call. That's all. It's something that you can say, hey, look, you know, we're doing this for our investors. So, um, I don't know. I think Netflix is I don't that co-CEO, I don't like him whatsoever. After the comments he made at CinemaCon and a couple of other places, I have no respect for. No respect for. I will not pay for Netflix. That's just me personally. Anyways, guys, what do you think about this? Do you have the ad tier if you have Netflix? If so, do you enjoy it because you don't have to watch commercials? How much are you paying per month for it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so we have one more story. I promise, one more story. And this is about a network that, I mean, I would say for the past 10 to 15 years, okay, has not been relevant. Now, that being said, they have had some, um, they've had I don't watch them per se, um, and they've had a couple of decent shows from what I understand. Um, but that all being said, that's about to change. So, um, I'm talking about the CW. The CW is, and the reason why Netflix is there is, and I'll get to the piece in a minute, is because a lot of their shows have gone to Netflix. So let's just dive into this and talk about this real quick. So this comes to us. The last story of the day comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, and it is superhero shows quote have their time as new CW leaders outline plans to make the network quote bigger and profitable. The new CW regime outlined its plans to reinvent the network beyond its former roster of DC Comics inspired superhero shows in order to make an effort to make the new Nexstar controlled broadcaster profitable by 2025. Former Pop Television Brad Schwartz, now entertainment president at CW, and network president Dennis Miller, no, not that one, talked through Nexstar's first fall schedule for the former Young Skewing network Thursday, sharing details on how they plan to bring foreign acquisitions, unscripted scripts, and live golf to broaden the network to new, older, and repeat viewers. We're excited that CW is now in the hands of Nexstar, a company with more free cash than Paramount, almost as much cash flow as Fox, Schwartz told reporters from a podium in New York, where press assembled via Zoom, and they grilled the executive about the network's drastic makeover. The CW is now run by broadcasters whose only goal is to build a strong brand and cultivate emotional attachment to the largest audience possible. Broadcasting is their core business. Our goal is to do what's best for the viewer, stations, and advertisers. No longer will the CW be built on the benefit of two content studios. And they're basically talking about um, the these things, the superhero type of shows. So, um, the latter dig was directed at CBS Studios and Warner Brothers Television, the former co-owners of the CW, which retain a mere 12.5% in what remains of the network, as they build a profit from foreign and streaming sales out of the originals they populated with. Station group Nexstar took over full control of the CW last year, ousting longtime CEO Mark Pedowin and his senior executive team and shifting a model that it hopes to make the network profitable by 2025. As much of the changes, Miller and Schwartz have canceled all but two of the CW's homegrown originals, All American on the fall schedule and Walker. With three more, Superman and Lois, Gotham Knights, and All American Homecoming awaiting decisions in the future. That came after a particularly brutal upfront season last year, in which the CW canceled nearly half of the roster. Pedowitz and company spent years cultivating for a network that was only designed to be profitable for its owners and not as a standalone broadcaster. Asked specifically about the future of Superman and Lois, one of the two remaining DC comic shows remaining on the bubble, Schwartz said the business model no longer worked for Nexstar's vision for the network. They were the hallmarks of the CW for a long time. As we look forward to try and make the network bigger and profitable, frankly, as much as we love those shows and they have their time, they're not working on linear, Schwartz said. Instead, the CW has lined up its fall schedule with shows that have already aired abroad, a canceled cable show, AMC's 61st Street, and a rejected reality show, HBO's Max F-Boy Island. The model, Miller and Schwartz explained, was to make shows that maximize revenue for the CW. Decisions on Gotham Knights, Superman and Lois, and Homecoming are expected to come, quote, soon, end quote, as Schwartz says he speaks to producers on Warner Brothers weekly about them. At the same time, all three are more expensive than the imported shows like Sullivan's Crossing that Schwartz repeatedly touted during his hour-long upfront presentation on Thursday. Under Pedowitz, the CW targeted viewers ages 18 to 34 with fare like Riverdale and Nancy Drew. Under Nexstar, Schwartz and Miller plan to focus on an older viewer crowd, and the advertising covered an 18 to 49 demographic, but vowed not to turn their back on the audience that made the broadcaster's previous content appointment viewing. The young adult audience is not making an appointment with broadcast television today, Miller said, noting that it was a, quote, great strategy that it has now evolved into the demo, binging homegrown originals with higher price points like Euphoria, Stranger Things, and Wednesday, all streaming shows. That audience is a bandit broadcast, hence the opportunity we have to broaden the audience. Asked by THR if they expect the lower cost foreign acquisitions to rate after Pedowitz previously used them as filler on the schedule, Miller argued that those programs starring the likes of Patrick Dempsey and Brendan Fraser were not marketed or priorities. For us, we found acquisitions that could be huge shows, he said. Who is president of Pop TV, brought Schitt's Creek to United States audiences. I don't think acquisition is a bad word. Sullivan's Crossing costs as much as any of those other shows to license. We think that these are huge hit shows. To me, it doesn't matter who makes a show. The question is, will people watch? I don't differentiate homegrown from acquisitions, he continued. We've picked shows we think have a chance to do well. Sullivan's Crossings can be bigger than anything on the CW last year. F-Boy Island can be bigger than anything on the CW last year. Fleabag is an acquisition. Bodyguard is an acquisition. Squid Game comes from another part of the world. Every single show we acquire, we make a deal to be creatively involved going forward. We want to be co-producers. We want our shows in the awards conversation. While the CW has had the rights to seasons that have already been produced Schwartz opened the door to make additional seasons as co-producers with other studios. But first, the goal is to broaden the audience beyond its current younger demo. We have to pick up the shows if we think they can grow, be profitable, have a great audience retention, and we can market other shows too, he said, when asked about the network's current lack of superhero programming. So this goes on. I'm not going to read the whole thing, okay, because it gets quite lengthy. But what I'll say is this. You have a lot of things going on here, okay? Number one, you have a brand new group of people coming in, okay? That it doesn't help matters much, okay? As far as their content, getting older. So they just made a deal to get Live Golf. Okay, it was a big deal because Live Golf is one of those things that is very controversial. Okay, because of where the money is coming from. That being said, I don't know if that's going to drive the older crowd there. Even if they have all these golfers that are, I mean, they're playing at the PGA Championship this week, but I don't know if it's going to drive them on a weekly basis to the um, to get those things. That being said, when they go over and get something, you know, when they do from CW, okay, this is going to take a long time. It's not just going to take 2 years. Okay, they said they wanted to try to be profitable by 2025. This is going to take a long time because you have to have people that are. The first season is always introducing the characters. The second season is going to make them come back. It's going to be very difficult to see if that happens. As far as, you know, everything else is concerned, I mean, I haven't watched it, but from what I hear, Superman Lois is a very good show. Okay? Kyle loves the show. I know that for a fact. He loves the show. I mean, and it's one of those things where if they get rid of that, you know, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what they're trying to do. This is just at the end of the day, though. This is just a wait and see type of thing. That's all it is. It's a wait and see type of thing because you just don't know. You just don't know. I mean, they've been doing these superhero shows for years. I mean, the Arrow has been on for 6, 7, 8 years. You know, you had the Flash that was on for multiple years. I mean, these shows are huge, and that's what their viewer base is, right? I don't know. I think that it's going to be very, very difficult for them to rebuild it. And if golf is the only thing that they're going to put on there, look out. It just, I mean, we'll come back and revisit this at some point, but probably at the end of the year or the next time that they're in the news. But I don't watch the CW. And I know a lot of people don't watch the CW. And beyond that, the last thing I'll say is this. Streaming is killing everybody. It's all about streaming. I used to coin the term many years ago for appointment television. There are no more appointment television shows out there. I mean, sure, you've got a show like NCIS or, whatever. It used to be The Big Bang Theory on CBS. But back in the 90s, that's when it used to be the appointment television. You had CSI, you had Friends, you had ER, you had, all the powerhouse shows were on Thursday nights. That was before streaming. There's so many options with cable. There's so many options with streaming. It's going to be very difficult. So it's a wait and see type of thing. Anyways, what do you guys think about this news? Do you watch any of the shows on the CW? If so, which ones? Which ones do you enjoy? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so that is going to do it for today's show. So this was quite long, I know, and I'll probably cut a couple of these things out. That all being said, if anybody did stop by and they did like the content and they do want to watch more, please hit the like and subscribe button, because that's the only way this stuff gets out to everybody. And I am trying to get it out to as many people as I can, as much as I can. I'm going to have a whole bunch of content coming for you. We talked about watch retention. That's what I'm really looking for. I've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up for you guys on the summer. We got the perfect movies coming up in a couple weeks. That's going to be The Dark Knight, of course. You know, I think Christopher Nolan's masterclass. I'm going to be going to see Fast 10 hopefully today or tomorrow. Definitely today at some point. So I will go see it today, and then we will come back here on Saturday for a spoiler cast. And we'll talk all about, you know, Fast 10, what we liked, what we didn't like, all that good stuff. So come join me for that. Mission Impossible rewatch series is still going on. Guys, I'll be watching the next one and putting up the next video probably in the next week or two. Definitely by the end of the month. If you guys want to go support me, please, you know, there's a couple ways to do it. Number one, the store is up, finally. T-shirts, mugs, they make great gifts, okay? We got Memorial Day coming right around the corner, birthdays, graduations. Go get yourself a mug, you know. Help me out, you know. If you don't want to do that, we've got hit that join button. It's $2.99 a month. It's less than a gallon of gas. It's really nothing. But if you do like something a little bit more stable, okay, I have these videos on Patreon. Okay, there's two videos. It's two levels. One is $5 and the other one is $10. The $5 level is going to get you Mob Mondays. Every single month, once a month, I will be putting a brand new mob movie up there. To start out was The Departed. Okay, you guys have already told me you wanted me to do The Untouchables. I've watched it. I've got the notes. I have to record that, and that will be up for you guys. Rewatch Wednesdays is $10 a month. So you're going to get both videos, okay? And then Rewatch Wednesdays are films that I've seen, but I haven't watched in a while. So I want to go back and watch it. The first one on the channel there is Steve Jobs, Michael Fassbender, Kate Winslet, you know, directed by Danny Boyle. Amazing. You guys have spoken. You guys want me to do Training Day, so I will be putting Training Day up there. That's another way you guys can support me. The store, okay? Yeah, and just all of these different things. You know, I did a whole video about, and I finally got it up last night, about the John Campion situation and what happened, and I modeled my stuff after him and everything else. And that's what I do. I've modeled myself after him. If you guys are interested in anything, okay, learning about what I do or how I do it or how I won't do it, go check that video out. I think, you know, or check out I have the perfect movies. I wanted to try and establish myself and be different than John. So I took and have taken 10 or 12 perfect movies. Okay. List is right here. Okay. And so, I mean, we have movies, you know, coming up for the rest of this year, like Spotlight, Pulp Fiction, you know, all of these movies. I'm going to be sitting down and doing a deep dive into all of these movies. I've already done films like Silence of the Lambs, Captain America Winter Soldier, Heat, The Social Network, okay? Deep dives into all of these. Um, so I wanted to try and differentiate myself from John. Um, and I'm trying to build a community. I'm trying to build a brand. So that's why I say, guys, if you like what you see, if you like what you're watching, hit the like and subscribe button, okay? Because this is what I want to do, okay? Um, so that is about it, I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna go see Fast 10. And guys, we have so many spoiler casts coming up. I mean, I ran through all the movies, earlier in the show. The Flash, Transformers, Into the Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible. I'm going to be giving you guys breakdowns of all this stuff. And it's free. It's free. So I hope that you guys will take the time out and, show me a little appreciation. On occasion, I do videos too, or not videos, but interviews. I got to message him fairly shortly. Of course, as the strike happened, so life happened. Jeremy Fowler has already agreed to come on the show. Want to get him back, you know, him on the show. I'm always looking for interviews. So, um, yeah. Okay, guys. So that's about it for today. So do the 3 things you need to do: be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye bye, guys.